Loud noise at work. I have tinnitus, and in order to sleep, I need a low-level masking sound, typically the television. Our suite had 2 televisions, each with a unique remote that required a 4-digit security code in order to work. The bedroom remote wasn't functioning, so we went to the front desk for assistance. None of the codes they gave us worked, so the TV couldn't be adjusted by remote. We asked a second time, and nothing they told us helped. It was becoming a hassle. The next morning we woke up at 8, too early for the free continental buffet staged in the porn library room overlooking the main pool area. So we headed to coffee for a quick jolt, then to Sherman's Delicatessen for breakfast. Around 10, we returned to the resort where people were beginning to stir. The usual assortment of nude sunbathers, early bird, day pass sex cruisers from LA, and older gentlemen with their much younger weekend escorts. I wanted to catch a nap before heading to the festival, but I still couldn't adjust the volume of the TV from the bed. Michael went to ask for help at the front desk one more time, at which point I quickly dozed off. Minutes later, I was woken by the sound of Michael slamming the door to the room and then locking it with both deadbolt and chain. Visibly shaken, he said, "That man out there is crazy. He's threatening me." And I opened the door to find a wild-eyed troll yelling, "I'm the manager, and your friend called me an asshole. You're both out of here in 10 minutes, or I'm calling the police to have you escorted off my property." My instinct was to grab him in a front facelock until he was unconscious, but the fact that I had to be on stage in 4 hours saved his scrawny ass. Rather than argue or reason, we began packing up our stuff. The walk of shame took us from our poolside room, case of water and luggage in tow, past the smirking sunbathers and bagel-nuzzling septuagenarians, to the front desk. The young employee who handled the cancellation of the remaining 2 nights' room charges had a puzzled and somewhat sad look on his face as if to say, "Yes, he's out of his mind, but he's my boss and I need this depressing job, so I can't help you either." Once the charges had been removed, I looked at the manager and said, "You know, you're out of your fucking mind. You see this wristband? This wristband says I'm standing in front of tens of thousands of people today, and you're stuck here with your drugs and delusions and dog shit by the pool." The manager rushed to a hockey puck-sized object on the desk, raised his hand, and replied, "You see this button? If I push this button, you'll be blacklisted from every clothing optional resort in Palm Springs." I chortled and spat, "Save it for someone who cares," then sauntered away with my partner, my dignity, and our case of bottled water. We checked into a nearby clothing-required hotel before heading to the festival. Within a few hours of being thrown out of the clothing-optional resort, I was, in fact, on stage in front of tens of thousands of music fans, blazing through a 13-song, 45-minute set that encompassed stories from my 30 years of adult life. Not only was I having a great time entertaining the crowd, but I was also having a hearty internal howl over what had just happened, and the thought of how people would have reacted had I told this particular story on stage. It was a moment, one of several in the last few years, that showed me how integrated my personal and professional lives had finally become. Clearly, that sunny afternoon on the Coachella stage wasn't the right time or place to tell that anecdote, but the journey that led me to that place and to self-acceptance, wholeness, and freedom was ripe for the telling. New day rising, indeed. As a child, music was my escape. It was my fantasy world. Once I understood the value and meaning of music, I began composing. When I'm creating a new piece of music, I float unconsciously for hours, days, weeks at a time. The words and melodies flow through my brain, body, and soul. Imagine standing under the most beautiful waterfall or in a wonderfully appointed shower, the perfect temperature water pouring down over you. The infinite loops of history and harmony blend seamlessly into each other and wash my pain away. But unlike the escapism of composing music, writing this book was an emotionally taxing process. Even though my life